Our next burning question involving the Buffalo Sabres. We know Kulik, we know Thompson, we know Norris, we know Tuck. Who will the other two forwards be in the top six? We'll discuss it coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into this Monday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast, and thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. You could watch us on our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button there, and of course, as always, you can be a part of our Locked On Sabres text club, and if you are not already a subscriber, good time of year to sign up as we get a lot closer to the season. 1 week until the start of the preseason. You can head over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres. Today's episode is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here on a Monday. Finally, the Bills win, by the way, so everybody's in a good mood. The weather's nice, and we're getting closer and closer to hockey season. Players are in town. They're reporting to training camp. They're showing up, and we had Fan Fest over the weekend, so a lot of good stuff coming your way in the next couple of weeks, and the players are getting ready to go. The Prospects Challenge wrapped up. We'll talk a bit about that at the beginning here, and then as we continue through my 12-bit burning questions about this team, today we're going to get to the top six. Who's going to play in it? Not who my favorite idea is. I think you listen enough. I like Zach Benson playing in the top six. But there are two spots available, and I'm not sure Zach Benson will be the choice by Lindy Ruff. He could be, but I think there might be 5-6 guys that are going to be competing for two top six positions at the start of the season. So we'll talk about that coming up, the different options here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. But we should kick things off with the Prospects Challenge coming to a close and the Buffalo Sabres not faring particularly well. And after 3 games, today was against the Pittsburgh Penguins in an afternoon game where they fell 5-3. The Sabres prospects end this tournament without a win. And there are jokes you could make. I don't really think you need to. There also is a thought of, well, their prospect pool might not be as loaded as it has been in past years. A lot of those prospects have graduated to the NHL level, and they have not really been flush with picks. They have not picked first or second in 5 years. So I think there's an idea of, well, maybe they're not as depth. There's not a deep up front with those prospects as they used to be. So I liked some things I saw. I liked Noah Ostlund in this tournament a lot. I liked Rodney Murtka a lot in this tournament. Those two were probably the most impressive to me. I get a question about Anton Wahlberg a lot from listeners, a couple guys in the chat that are always interested in him, and I thought he looked fine. I thought he looked mature, good in his own end, physical. But Ostlund looked like the most dynamic Sabre on the ice to me. Murtka was very impressive, and I'm very excited to see him going forward. Now, the two negative takeaways I had, one, the goaltending was pretty stinky. It was a bad goalie performance all the way through. It did not matter who was in goal. Topias Leinonen is the biggest disappointment to me because he was drafted so high and he's got these physical tools, but he's played so little hockey as a former second-round pick since he got drafted that I guess not that stunning. Like, his development just really hasn't gotten going. And Scott Ratzlaff, same thing, like, didn't really look impressive to me. So goaltending was a negative for sure. And then the other negative, I guess this is a lesser negative because I think he was fine. I would have liked to see more from Konsta Helenius. I'm not thinking about him right now towards making the opening night roster, but I don't know if he would have been dominant, like best player in the tournament. And maybe I'm putting the bar too high for him. I like the prospect a lot, and I was hoping for that type of performance. I thought he was fine, but I guess I was hoping for a little bit more. So all in all, some good individual performances, some bad individual performances, and the team comes away with no wins in 3 games. So that's not fun for all the fans that would have went down in attendance. Today on the show, we're focusing, of course, on the NHL club as we roll towards training camp and the preseason. And I think there's a competition coming in the preseason. There's a goalie competition coming. If you missed our last show, be sure to check it out on Alex Georgiev being here and the Luukkonen injury and all the things that are going on in goal. But the other competition, and this will be today's burning question, 12 burning questions about the Buffalo Sabres. Today, the next one is going to be about the top 6 and the different options the Sabres have. And again, I think there are plenty, not in a good way. They're all kind of in the same tier. You'd like there to be 2 more solidified star players up there. Had they signed Nikolai Ehlers in the offseason, that would be preferable to having a bunch of guys all around the same territory here. So we'll get to the different options. We'll start with the young guys, a couple of veterans along the way as well, and maybe some sleeper candidates for this. But we'll start with the 2 guys that I talk about the most for playing up high in the lineup and taking steps from last year to this year. And I'm talking, of course, about Jack Quinn, and I'm talking about Zach Benson. I think one of those 2 taking a big step forward is the best case scenario, not just for the good of the team this year, but both are very young players still, Benson more than Quinn. And there is still a thought of, well, maybe if they do it this year, they could be that solution for a very long time. You start rattling off the veteran players. If they were to do it, not quite the same. You might have to replace that guy in a year or 2. But Quinn and Benson, absolutely the guys to lead off with here. And the Benson thing for me, just to repeat, is he is extremely valuable in his own end and creating for other players, smart plays along the boards, creating turnovers. And I would like to believe there is a big step there at some point for Zach Benson, but it's got to come with the skating, it's got to come with the size, and it's got to come with the goal scoring. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I got to see him in training camp. I got to see him in the preseason before I'm willing to declare that, oh yeah, Zach Benson's about to be a 50, 60-point player for them this season. I don't know what his physical shape is like and what he's done during the offseason. So fingers crossed, because that's my guy for this. That's the best case scenario. Quinn is a little bit more polarizing. I think that there's a lot of fans that have written him off. Like, this is not going to happen. He has played 3 years in the pros, not seeing it happen. I'm not betting on it happening at age 24 for him, which he'll be on September 19th in just a couple of days. And that's where I lean. There was a hot stretch of play at the end of last year that could have made you believe, okay, maybe there's something here. What I see is a player that I would anticipate for the remainder of his career is going to be a guy that for 2 weeks is going to convince you, oh man, we got a top line right winger right here. Or if he plays on his offside, I guess it could be left side, but left wing. We got a guy that could play in our top 6 consistently all the time. He could score 30 goals, 35 goals. I think you could get that type of player out of Jack Quinn for a week or 2. A lot of that comes down to his goal scoring ability. It's his shot being his number 1 asset, and he can get hot. That's what happened at the end of last year. Not a lot of scoring chances, not a lot of shots generated, not great play out there on the ice. The Sabres were outshot by a wide margin, outchanced, expected goals in the other direction. They were not strong when he was out there on the ice in that hot stretch. But because he's a shooter, he scored on his limited opportunities. So what does it matter? He got the goals, and with some players, it might take 5 chances, and for him, it was taken 2. So he got there. And I think that reads like a player that's going to be streaky and is going to be streaky for a long time. Now, I guess just the question is going to be, when he's hot, how hot is it? I think I've got a name in mind for you. Best case scenario for me with Jack Quinn this season and beyond. Drew Stafford. That to me is the best case scenario. Drew Stafford was exactly this. He would go on a torrid streak for a month. And you'd go, man, look at this guy. If he could just do that for 82 games, he'd be a legitimate top-line winger. But after watching Drew Stafford for 9 seasons in blue and gold, we realized he had only done it once, where he'd put the whole year together, that big contract year, which actually is the last time the Sabres made the playoffs, and he scored 31 goals. Otherwise, Drew Stafford's career high in goals with the Buffalo Sabres, actually anywhere. It was just with the Sabres. He scored 21 with Winnipeg. Without that 31-goal season, his career high in Buffalo was 20. He never cracked above 20 other than that one 31-goal year. So that, to me, is not a great outcome for a top 10 pick in Jack Quinn, but it is a great outcome for me for a forward that over 3 years has not given you much reason to believe that there's more in there than that. I would take that right now. Give me a 20-goal average for Jack Quinn with every 5-6 years, maybe twice in his career, he'll pop off a 30-goal season. That, to me, would be a success for Jack Quinn. He'll be a player that I think frustrates fans for a long time because I think he's going to look great for a week or two, and then he'll disappear for a month. And if he could build a level of consistency, then that would surprise me, but obviously that would be a welcome to the Buffalo Sabres top 6. As to the question of whether they'll play him in the top 6, I predict they will not. I predict that he will not be up there because he's a right shot. Like to play him on the right side. You got Tuck, you got Thompson. I think the position Handis puts him on the third line to start the season. But it depends if they want a shutdown line to put Benson on it. And that's where we get to Zach Benson very quickly here because I've talked a lot about him already. We know the story on Zach Benson. It's just whether they want to keep rolling with Yuri Kulik, Tage Thompson, and Zach Benson. If they want to keep rolling with that, then I think you go with it and you see how the season begins. I think it is defendable, though, if you want to have a shutdown line and say, yeah, Quinn could score some goals. Let's put him up high and see if we can get him hot early in the year. And let's put Benson on the third line and have a line that's just going to take the other team's best line out of the game with McLeod and Zach Benson and maybe a Josh Doan or a Greenway that you throw Benson down on the third line. I think that's a very strong possibility as well. Now, when we come back, those are the young guys. What about veterans? And to start with, we should talk about Jason Zucker's candidacy for the top 6. That when we return here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Indeed. You just realized that your business needed to hire somebody like yesterday. Well, how can you find amazing candidates fast? That's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed's all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page, and it'll help you reach the right candidates a lot faster. If you've been in that spot where you need the right hire yesterday, pressure's on, every day without the right person can be a setback. That's exactly when Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in handy. They make sure that your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now. Support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are rolling towards hockey season. So next Monday, week from today, recording this late on Monday, Sabres and Blue Jackets in Columbus. I have not seen a TV schedule yet. Generally, if you're interested in these games, what the Sabres will do if it's not televised is they'll put the stream up on their website, sabres.com, but we'll see the details on that, I would believe, in the next day or two. Then, of course, a week from Tuesday is the home preseason opener against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that is coming your way as well. 2 games against Columbus, 2 games against Detroit, 2 games against Pittsburgh, and then we are on to the regular season against the New York Rangers. So top 6, that's the next big question that I've got. Who's going to play in it to begin the year? And we know the 4. I think we know Kulik's going to be in it. We know Norris. We know Tuck and Tage. Just went through Quinn and Benson. What about veterans? And we'll start with Jason Zucker, who is coming off a very strong year, a 20-goal campaign, totally exceeding all expectation. when he signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Buffalo Sabres. And then, to my surprise, and I still think Zucker is a lone wolf on this more than this is how the league is and we're all wrong about it. Zucker was like, oh, of course I want to come back here. Love the group, love the city, love the organization. I don't know what you guys are talking about with players don't want to come here and no trade lists. I don't know. That doesn't happen. That's what Zucker said. I don't buy it. Maybe he's right. I don't buy it at all. I think they're on a lot of no trade lists. I think a lot of players don't want to come here. There is that reputation around here in the league. How many times do we need to see a report about a player saying no to them? Matt Murray a couple of years ago. Who's the defenseman? Not Jacob Chikrin. Noah Dobson this offseason. There's guys all the time where that happens. So I don't think that he's making it up. I just think he might have a misread on the whole situation. But whatever, doesn't matter. He's here. He re-signed, and that's what matters. 53 points last year. What about Zucker to play in the top 6? I'll tell you right here. I like Benson the most as one of the ideas, and I'm not sure if it'll be Benson or Quinn. That's 50-50 to me. I'm pretty sure the other guy in the top 6, the other left winger here, I think it's going to be Jason Zucker. I think you're going to see him playing on one of the top 2 lines to begin the year. And that is an increased role for him. That kind of speaks to, well, you didn't really replace JJ Peterka because a year ago, when you began the year, where was Jason Zucker playing? On the third line, shutdown line. It was a great line. Ryan McLeod, Jordan Greenway, and Jason Zucker. I'd love to run that line back, but I'm not sure they can afford it because I think Zucker's got to play up high in the lineup. And there are worse ideas. He was good last year. He's had good years when he's played up high in lineups. Now, a lot of those years are when he's with, Evgeny Malkin in Pittsburgh, like when he scored 27 goals in the 22-23 season. My biggest question about Zucker is how much can he produce at even strength? Because last year, he did score 21 goals. 11 were on the power play. 10 were even strength. In fact, he ranked 8th on the Buffalo Sabres in even strength goals. He had fewer than Quinn. He had fewer than Ryan McLeod by 7. So he only had 1 more than Dylan Cousins, and Dylan Cousins was traded at the deadline. He only had 2 more than Peyton Krebs. That's one way to put it, isn't it? Think of it that way. He had 2 more even strength goals than Peyton Krebs did last year. So, and I'm not criticizing him. They need his power play production. But we're talking about an even strength conversation here. This is who is he play with when we're at 5-on-5. So can he do better than that? The one thing that is good, I think, about his history is that last year's split of, more power play goals than even strength goals. That's not normal for Jason Zucker. He's been more of a even strength guy in his career, and power play, not so much. In his career, 169 even strength goals to 45 power play goals. That's a big ratio in favor of the 5-on-5 goals. That 27 goal season he had in Pittsburgh, I mentioned a couple of years ago, 25 goals at even strength, 2 on the power play. So I don't mind the idea of him being up there. I think what he could do on a line that features Josh Norris and Alex Tuck, maybe, or him playing with, I wouldn't put him with Tage and Kulik, but I like the Norris Tuck idea a little bit, is you're getting speed, you're getting skating, you're getting a responsible player, you're getting a decent puck carrier, but more so a guy that hopefully can finish these chances that Alex Tuck is creating for him. I think that Zucker could be a good player on a line like that wouldn't get run over in its own end on top of it. So there are worse ideas. I don't mind the idea of Jason Zucker being up there, and I would tell you right now that, he's a regression candidate. 21 goals, you would think, that probably regresses. He wasn't too much higher on shooting percentage last year than his career average. He was at 14.7%, and his career average is 12.4. So modest regression. That might be offset, though, by an increased role. So I tell you right now, if he starts the year on the second line, I could very easily see him scoring 20 goals again. I don't know about much more than like 25, but somewhere in the 20 to 25 goal range, I think that's a realistic goal for Zucker. I think more likely he's in the high teens, but I think he could get into the 20s. All right, when we come back, a couple of other options for the Buffalo Sabres in the top 6. Josh Doan, newcomer. How about Jordan Greenway for this? Should they move Ryan McLeod into the top 6 and play around with that combination? We'll get to that coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, and the NFL season is here. Had some great games yesterday. We'll have some great games again this week. We got a home game here on Thursday, and FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. I love using FanDuel. I like using it during games to see how the lines are shifting, how the lines are moving. If I like a team that's a really strong team and they're down to an underdog at half, and you check what the odds are on that, and often those are good ones. It makes every game more exciting. Maybe you want to double down or you want to hedge on your fantasy lineup. That's always fun to do as well. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to your Sunday. So if you are ready to play right now, download the FanDuel app. Now visit FanDuel.com as well to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet today. Sneaky Joe DiBiase wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast as we talk about the top 6 after they go winless at the Prospects Challenge. Hopefully they'll do better in the Rochester season, and they'll do better in the junior season as they all go their separate ways. A lot of them going to Rochester, though. To the others, the other veterans that are options, and then maybe another kid or two on this. Who could play in the top 6? I think my prediction right now, Benson will be in the top 6. Zucker will be in the top 6. We'll see about Quinn. Lesser possibilities. Jordan Greenway. He's done it. He's been placed on a line with Tage Thompson and Alex Tuck. That's a line combination that we have seen before. Tage obviously will play on the wing now, so you would expect Greenway to do that with somebody else if he were to be up there. Not my favorite idea. I ate crow on Greenway last year. I was ready to see him healthy scratched at the beginning of the year. I was not really thinking at all about him being re-signed. I thought they might do it, but I didn't want them to do it. And it is kind of amazing that in training camp, I was very against the idea of Greenway having a big role on this team. And a year later, I flipped, and it was after a season where he scored 3 goals and had 8 points. That was it. And that's weird, right? Like, because it felt like Greenway had a good year. And I do think he had a good year. I think he was he was imposing with his physicality. I think he was very good defensively as a penalty killer. He's developed into one of the better penalty killers in the league, and thought he was generating chances when he was on that McLeod and Zucker line. But again, it ends up with 8 points. Part of that is why, part of it is he only played 34 games, but even that, like, that's a 7-goal pace. So as much as I like what Greenway showed them last year, and I'm good with him being in their bottom 6, and I'm very happy they brought him back to play in their bottom 6. Not a guy I want to see in the top 6. Not a guy for that. I don't think he has real goal-scoring chops in the NHL. He can score in front of the net. He can do the dirty work, but in my top 6, I'd like to have guys that can score from further out, that can create nice chances for others, that can make great individual efforts to score from themselves. And Greenway, to me, can only really score one way, and I think that's more built for a third or a fourth liner. So I don't like the idea of Greenway being up there, but I think it is possible that we see it because we have seen it happen before, and we've seen Lindy do it. Josh Doan is another idea here, coming over from Utah, a player that the Sabres very much prioritized in that trade with Utah. There was the clip from the Beyond Blue and Gold embedded where Kevin Adams on the phone with the Utah GM, and then after the fact, it's like, yeah, they don't want to part with Doan. Too critical to it. And the deal didn't happen there, and then he ends up being in the deal. Now, again, though, this is a player where I don't have proof that he can play in the top 6. In 62 NHL games, 12 goals. Like, not great. Now, what I will say about Doan is his age gives you some reason for hope that maybe there's a big step in there. I'm not betting on it, but I would tell you it's possible. And we'll get a look at him at preseason. We'll get a look at him at the beginning of the regular season, whether he's the guy with the chops for it. It's not too different than Jack Quinn. I mean, they're similar age, guys that haven't done it in the top 6 that you're hoping can ascend to it. The biggest difference would be their draft status, right? And Quinn's shooting ability. You have an 8th overall pick versus a guy who went in the 2nd round. And, that's a difference, I think. So maybe Josh Doan, but he would really have to impress, I think, to get that spot. But I think he is a candidate. And then just to include them, Prospects Challenge just wrapped up. And I guess you never know. Noah Ostlund. Is he going to blow them away at training camp? That's what it would take. He would have to blow them away at training camp in the way that Zach Benson did a couple of years ago. That happens once every 10 years, maybe. Now he's played a year in the AHL, so he's not right out of his draft class. In fact, it's been 3 years now since he was drafted. So 21 years old. He's not 18, but size-wise, he still kind of looks like an 18-year-old when he's out there. So I'll throw him in as a distant possibility. But I don't want to exclude him completely because he was awesome for Rochester last year. Player of the month, remember. He earned that call-up with the Buffalo Sabres. He did not do much in those 8 games that he played with the Sabres. He didn't look ready for that at the end of last year. So he would have had to have a massive summer. And he looked good at the Prospects Challenge, but not so good that I'm seriously thinking about him doing this. But if there's one kid to mention here that could shock the world and get a top 6 spot, I think he would be the guy. So those are some names to keep an eye on for the top 6. Again, my most likely trio that I think you're probably getting 2 of the 3 out of Jack Quinn, Zach Benson, and Jason Zucker in no particular order. Although I guess I did tell you, I think Quinn would be the odd man out. Top 6, we'll see what they do. All in all, just to summarize, I don't think they have a very good top 6. It's one of the reasons why I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. Is I think they have a pretty weak top 6. They're going to have struggle scoring. I think they'll have struggle scoring. I said that last year and I was wrong. They scored a bunch of goals, but they just took one of their best goal scorers off the team and didn't really replace him. So, all right, I was wrong last year. What do you want to do next year when I'm wrong again? You want to take Tage off the team and see if they can do it again? Hope I'm wrong for the 2nd year in a row, but I don't think that they're going to so easily replace all of that offense that they're losing with JJ Peterka. That'll do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. If you've got a comment or a question and you'd like to get it through, you could do that on our text club. So be sure to reach out. And if you would like to check out Locked On NHL for all that's going on around the NHL, we got our top 100 list on Locked On NHL. A lot of stuff happening around the league with contract stuff with Kirill Kaprizov and McDavid. And you got all the Olympic stuff, of course, going your way. You got a lot of good off-season content on Locked On NHL, available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We'll talk to you next time here in the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.